Prologue, The War You Didn't Know You Were In. From the book, The Mind is the Human Battlefield, How History Programmed It, Science Maps It, Philosophy Questions It, and Spirit Reclaims It. A fourfold voice book. Introduction, the quietest war in human history. You were born into a war with no gunfire, no trenches, no declarations, only lullabies filled with rules, television shows laced with approval, and voices telling you who you were before you even asked the question. You didn't enlist in this war. You were born on its battlefield. The territory? Not your homeland. Not your body. Not your gender. Not even your soul. The battlefield was your mind. By the time you could form a sentence, the war was already inside you. What to believe, who to obey, how to belong, how to be loved. It came in through repetition, suggestion, silence, and shame. It came through religion, school, law, punishment, and praise. And because the war never looked like a war, you never thought to rebel. But a war it was, because the moment your thoughts were no longer yours, you were no longer free. History, the invention of obedient minds. Long before your eyes could read, they were being trained to scan for approval. Long before your ears could discern wisdom, they were taught to obey voices louder than your own. This is not merely your personal history. It is the hidden architecture of society itself. From the temples of ancient empires to the chalkboards of modern schools, the goal was never just education. It was internal governance. Control the narrative, and you control the thinker. Michel Foucault, in Discipline and Punish, exposed the rise of disciplinary societies, where punishment became invisible because it was internalized. Authority was no longer a sword, it was a whisper. And shame became the leash no one saw, but everyone obeyed. The rise of mass schooling in the 19th century wasn't merely about literacy. It was about time, tables, uniformity, compliance. As Carl Jung warned in The Undiscovered Self, societies did not liberate the soul. They absorbed it into systems of control masked as civilization. The cost of progress was identity itself. The war on the mind was efficient because it didn't look like war. It looked like tradition, morality, normalcy. But behind the curtain, the child's wonder was being swapped for obedience. Such science, how the brain becomes a captive system. The war is not metaphor alone, it is biological. The mind is not a blank slate, but a soft circuit of evolving patterns. And like all systems, it can be hacked. From birth to age 7, the brain is in theta state, a hypnotic frequency designed to absorb. It is here that beliefs are installed like code. Not because the child is weak, but because the brain is designed to trust. According to Bessel van der Kolk, in The Body Keeps the Score, trauma doesn't just scar, it reshapes. The amygdala becomes hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, goes offline. The body memorizes fear, and the mind becomes a servant to survival. Robert Sapolsky, in Behave, explains how behavior is not just choice, but neurochemical reaction. When systems consistently reward obedience and punish deviation, the brain rewires for safety, not truth. And safety becomes a prison dressed as peace. Thoughts are not just thoughts. They are electrochemical storms influenced by dopamine, cortisol, serotonin. And when those storms are conditioned by fear, love becomes suspicious. And freedom feels dangerous. Philosophy, thought became identity, and identity became the cage. The war turned philosophical the moment we mistook thought for self. When René Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," he carved a dangerous path, one that made existence dependent on thought and the soul dependent on mental noise. But what if you are not what you think? What if thought is the veil, not the mirror? Plato's allegory of the cave already warned us. We mistake shadows for truth and become loyal to illusions. The prisoners did not want freedom, they feared the light. Because to walk out of the cave is to lose your familiar pain. Simone Weil said, "Imagination and fiction make up more than 3/4 of our real life." And this is the tragedy. Most humans never meet themselves, only their programming. The war rages because philosophy was buried beneath doctrine, because questions became threats, and because silence, true silence, became a forgotten art. Spirit, you are not the mind. You are the watcher. Beyond the battlefield, something watches. Something not born of thought, not shaped by history, not limited by form. That something is you. The mind is not your enemy, but it is not your master either. It is a servant meant to calculate, not command. It is a tool meant to translate, not define. Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now, speaks of the pain body, a field of mental and emotional residue that lives through repetition. But he also speaks of the one who watches it all. That watcher, awareness, is your essence. It does not react. It does not panic. It witnesses. Spirit is not a belief. It is the stillness that remains when belief dissolves. And it is there, in that stillness, that the war finally ends. You do not need to win the war. You only need to see it. And when you see it, you step off the battlefield and into the garden of your own soul. Conclusion: the war ends where awareness begins. You were not made to be obedient. You were made to be aware. No outer system can dominate a mind that is self-aware. No thought can rule you once you know you are not it. No trauma can program what has remembered its original nature. You are not your thoughts. You are the space they move through. The war does not end with revolution. It ends with remembrance, and remembrance begins now. Awakening questions. 1. What thoughts do I repeat that were never truly mine? 2. When did I begin mistaking my thinking for my identity? 3. What parts of me were shaped by fear, not freedom? 4. Who am I beneath belief, beneath memory, beneath programming? Final 4 lines. You were never the war. You were never the wound. You were never the weapon. You are the witness.